All right, guys. I think this is going to be one of one for the live stream. So here we go. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner, sponsored by Premier Lending. I'm Devin Dubuc.
I'm Coach Rick Koenig.
And, as always, we're here just to talk about success techniques, things that we're seeing in the industry, that you can use and put in your day-to-day business to have great successes for yourself. So, today, Coach, I know we had an interesting topic planned. I don't know what's going on with my voice. That's kind of wild. But we just got back from the Ford coaching event in Las Vegas with Neil Dingra. And man, wow, right? Like what an amazing event it was.
It really was. I mean, we had some of the most unique speakers utilizing marketing type tools, social media tools, and just good advice on things that they've done to grow their businesses. Some were in the mortgage industry, some weren't, but everything definitely was towards, and there was not just mortgage people there was mortgage, real estate, insurance people. And it was it was 1,000 of our best friends all got together.
It was 1,000 of our best friends, and just people that are fired up. It's funny, man. Before we got started, by the way, thanks, Jessica Holloway, for tuning in. I see you, girl. Hey, and by the way, guys, if anybody's streaming in and you want to make a comment, right? We'd love to talk to you live while we're out here as well. But, you guys, there was an anomaly that happened first thing in the morning. You know what I'm talking about, Coach? You guys went downstairs to maybe get pumped up for the event.
I don't know. What am I forgetting?
You were talking about the gym and
okay.
Elaborate on that, man.
When we went to the gym in the morning, we were floored. It was me and a young man, Mike Cardacia, who works with us, and
Magic Mike, this guy right here.
Yeah, it was absolutely the best gym I've ever been to in a hotel. And at, it was 5 to 6 o'clock and maybe 7 o'clock in the morning tops, Western time, Pacific time. You almost couldn't get into a workstation. There was so many people working out. And when we walked into that room, man, there's national people there we knew through the mortgage industry. And it's like, wow, there's that guy and there's this guy. And literally, when we got upstairs, I think every single person that was in that gym that was with us, and what that was telling Mike and I was, these are focused, dedicated people, not only to their physical body, but to their mental state and their business. And it was amazing. Literally, I've never seen that many people, even in my home gym. I've never seen that many people. It was crazy.
Well, that's why I wanted to share that, again, the type of event that's attracting some of the top tier professionals in the United States. In multiple professions. It wasn't just mortgage professionals. We had real estate agents, financial planners, insurance agents there. But the focus, I think, you don't even have to be in any of those industries to have learned something from the event that we went to. Right.
Yep. Yeah. I took all kinds of notes. I know you guys did. I've been asking for notes or even PDFs from the event because I wanted to see these notes and, you literally can't remember it all, or maybe it's just my age, but since I'm the senior citizen of the crew here, there was just literally so much information. You could not remember everything. It's just physically impossible.
Yeah. Well, don't sell yourself short, Coach. There was information overload, there was, and the speakers in the room, again, they're bringing in, billionaires, marketing geniuses, right? Just some of the names that popped across the stage. Chris Doe came in and talked about marketing and branding, or blanding, right? Like, don't be a bland, be a brand. And we'll talk a little bit about that and like what we learned from that and how to get out there and create a personal brand for yourself, right? But then there was Johnny Cupcakes right up there talking about how he turned a t-shirt company into a multi-million-dollar business and did it with style and class by just going the extra mile. And I always like to talk about the book Unreasonable Hospitality. And if you guys haven't checked that out, Will Guidara, go put it on your read list, or I would say listen to list. He talks about, how they turned a restaurant in New York into the #1 restaurant in the world. It's pretty inspiring, man. But, you got Johnny Cupcakes, that I think that's what he did with this business. He turned this t-shirt business into an experience, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it takes, right? To really wow people and show them that you care and put meaning behind everything that you do.
Yeah, you got me to read that book. And one of the things that I thought was the most incredible was, they had a bunch of business people there, and they had all their suitcases, and they're going to run to the airport, but they had to get to this restaurant because they heard of the reputation.
Yeah.
And the waiter said, hey, was there anything you didn't get to do while you were here? And they said, man, we just never had time to go get out one of your hot dogs. And so he ran back to the back and said, hey, these guys didn't get a cart hot dog. I think he even asked them what they would get on it if they got it. He gets back there, he orders them all a hot dog. And as their meal's out there, they're serving them their meal. They brought in the hot dogs for them. And they ran down the street to the cart. And just think about that. I mean, it's so crazy, to think that somebody thought that much of their clients. These are people that are never going to be there again. They were there one time, they'll probably never be there again. And yet they bent over backwards. And now that story has been told thousands of times across the country and millions of times in that book. And it just adds to their reputation. And
I want to take that a step further too, because you got part of the story right, but the other part of the story was they didn't actually ask them. They just happened to be listening to these guys in the background, right? So this is how attentive it is, right? They were listening to them in the background, just understanding what they loved and what they didn't like. And they overheard them talking about how they visited all the restaurants that they wanted to visit in New York, and they wanted to finish with the finale right there at 11 Madison Park. But the one thing they missed was a New York hot dog. And it wasn't a hot dog for each of them. They actually went and bought one hot dog, but they took it back to the kitchen chef. And they said, hey, divide this up equally. And he looked at them like, I'm not serving this, right? And they said, look, let me tell you why. And when they told him the why, he cuts this hot dog up, divides it into equal parts, gives them a little bit of mustard, a little bit of mayo, like all the different charcuterie that you would find at a New York street hot dog cart. And they delivered it out without them even ever saying a word.
Yeah, that was cool.
That's paying attention. Like, that's unreasonable hospitality.
Yeah. One of the things one of the speakers talked about was you need a plan, because when you have a plan, it shows, that you're prepared and how much you care about what you're going to do, for your clients. And they said there was the 10/10 rule, where the 10/10 equals forever. 10 years equals future proofing your business. That if you have 10 people that you can build a 10-year relationship with, you have literally future proofed your business. And so even as the business grows, if you only have 9, you have to pick up that 10th. Having those type of relationships, and you don't get those type of relationships without going over the top when it comes to customer service and stuff like that.
And building relationships, right? Like building relationships, and that's funny because that kind of segues into the LO.Live show this morning. We had a couple of loan originators down in Naples, Florida, with Miguel's team. And they were talking about going really deep with their agents and, putting on these little special events and inviting people throughout the city. And we've all heard this stuff before, right? Like, oh, what makes this one different than everything else? What made it different is what they said. We're not there to sell anything. We're not trying to get them to buy our services. We're not talking about mortgage rates. In fact, what we were talking about on a lot of these things is like how they can actually brand themselves and how they can get involved in social media. And they're teaching them things. And then, hey, I'm not trying to work every single person in the room. I want to find the 2 people that I want to build a relationship with. And those are the 2 folks that I want to focus on. And I think that goes back to your 10/10 list, right? The 10 people that you can rely on, to help, grow and nurture and become, great. And then when they need something, they can lean into you. When you need something, you can lean into them, and right? You guys got each other's backs. So I think there's a whole lot going on with building real relationships with the partners that we want to do business with. And whether that's inside our physical business and the partners like you, Coach Rick, right? You and I are partners together in business, or the partners outside of our business They're going to help us excel and expand. And I think, if you're going to do that, you better darn well make sure that the people you're spending time with are people that want to level up their game and people that are doing the right things. Another thing that I noticed about the people in that room was they were very well read, right? Like, they talked about a lot of different books, that are designed to help you improve who you are in life. And they talked about never stop learning, right? Always make sure that you're investing in yourself. So, if you're tuning into the podcast now, or if you come back and watch this thing later, invest in yourself. You're investing in yourself right now, right? Jumping on and listening to, success techniques and things that you can go out and implement in your business, right? Like that's how you invest in yourself. But never stop learning, right? Get that read list and, go through and just knock those things down. It's funny is I love the event so much, Coach. I joined Ford Coaching because I'd never actually been involved with them before. And I got a chance to jump on the first Ford call this week. And, something Neil said really stuck with me. If he was listening to our podcast right now, he wouldn't be listening it in 1x speed. Which he would have to because this one's live. He listens to it in 1.5. Why would he do that?
Because the important things catch your attention and you can always go back and listen to them. But 2, there's only so much time in the day that you can listen to if you're listening to multiple things. I do the same thing when I'm reading.
Yep.
So
that's it. He said that if he's hearing it in 1x, it's actually so slow. It feels like it's in slow-mo. And he said that it allows for him to, think about that. If you're hearing things faster, like you're catching information quicker, your mind is really being stimulated, right? Like I think there's a lot to that, right? And then in addition to that, when you're listening to it in 1.5 times, you're able to get through more so that you can actually cram more information into your brain and grow faster, right?
Yeah. I tell you, and when you're talking about books and people were well read, I think there's 4 or 5 books that have been in my group that I listen to and then I re-listen to because I've downloaded them on Audible. And those books are, if I was going to say what's the first one to listen to, man, if you're building an organization, I would listen to the book Traction by Gino Wickman.
Oh, no question. Yeah.
That is the book. If you're building your personal brand in your personal business, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, an FBI
another one.
and hostage negotiator, is a great book. There's another short one. It's Exactly What to Say. It just helps you with different things. 10x is Easier is another book.
Yep.
And I think if I rounded out my group of books, Unreasonable Hospitality is way up there because I think that's something that we're trying to build more on at Premier Lending. We're really trying to take that customer experience to that next level because that's how you build those 10x relationships. Right. So if you've got a company that's supporting you, that's doing those different things, and Ferris, our owner at Premier, he's working by the book Traction right now. We have our rocks that we work on. We have our weekly meetings that we work on. We have things that we do in operations to make sure that we're trying to approve loans, not just to close on time, but to be done 5 days early.
Yeah.
And when you're trying to do those things that are a step above everybody else, you've got to have the whole company involved.
That's true.
And so you're out there, you're building relationships as a loan officer. When we were talking about that 10 times, 10 years to build a future-proof business, a couple of the things that we learned was, one, you can't keep score. Like, how many referrals they're giving you? Yes, you need to track that. How many referrals are closing? Yes, you need to track that. But, if you've got somebody that's only giving you a few and you're closing them, hey, they're a great partner and a great relationship to have, and just because somebody else is sending you way more, maybe they're not closing as many, you still have to make sure that you're taking care of both their clients at the same level. The really cool thing, I love the way they said it. In fact, I'll use the word stuff instead, but go overboard and do epic stuff. Just go overboard. It's so simple to do the extra little thing. if you're generous with your time, with not really expecting them to give you the same amount of time back, whether it's a client or whether it's a realtor, if you're generous with your time and they're not abusing it, they're a true partner with you. Yeah. So, and there was a couple other things, but, share everything you got. And the crazy one that I think a lot of people had a little pushback to was say yes to every request. If you listen to the request and you say yes and you work on it, even if you have to go back and say it didn't work or that's not going to work, it lets them know that you're listening to them, whether it's big stuff, important stuff, or stuff that's not going to help you do anything. And then I guess what everything came down to was, don't be a one-trick pony, be a unicorn.
Be a unicorn.
Be a unicorn.
Well, actually, you should be a one-trick pony, but make sure that one-trick pony is a fucking unicorn. And I'm sorry, excuse my French, right? But that's what was said, right? Is make sure that one-trick pony is a unicorn. So many people want to be so good at so many different things that they never get great at anything, right? And if you aren't great at everything, but you're amazing at one thing, that should be your thing, and you should go hard on that, right? So be a one-trick pony,
right?
But make sure the one-trick pony is a unicorn, right?
Yep.
And something you touched on a minute ago about being yourself and also about standing out, right? You want to stand out. You don't want to look like everybody else. And that's what he was talking about when he said be a brand, not be a bland. Right.
Look at your shirt and your hat.
Yeah, that's a brand, right? I mean, it's a brand, right? It's going on right now. When you're look at my color behind me, right? That's a brand, right? At the end of the day, you gotta commit to the bit, right? Whatever that is for you. Okay. So, what a lot of people tend to do is they look at their peers, they look at what other people are doing, and they try to mimic that, right? And that's not necessarily a terrible idea if you are that person, right? If you are similar in that style and you like their style and you can emulate that style, but you have to get really good at making sure that you make it your own. And so one of the things that was talked about by Chris Doe was make your brand, look at something that you already love and change it by 3%. Right. And he gave a great visual behind this. He talked about Virgil Abloh and Off-White. And if anybody's ever followed Off-White, what they're known for is taking somebody else's product and then just mixing it up and making it their own. But they still celebrate that. They actually put it on the copyright right on there that it's Off-White in care of Nike, right? Off-White in care of Louis Vuitton. Okay. And at the end of the day, what happened to this gentleman that created Off-White is he went from a designer who was using Ralph Lauren and just changing it by 3% to building his own business and then eventually going to work for Louis Vuitton as their head lead designer, right? Is that what a brand should be? I think it should, right? Take a brand that you love, make it your own, modify it by 3%, and make sure it's not bland. Make sure it's you and it stands out in front of everybody else, because that's what people are going to look for. They're going to look at you and go, man, well, look what that guy's doing. Look what that guy was doing, right? It's different. The other thing that I think we should touch on is honesty. They talked a lot about just being open, about being real and being raw, coach, right? And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people have a hard time being vulnerable. Well, just a few minutes ago, you said, we're trying to, get this process down to make sure that we are doing this for our clients. You didn't say we're doing it, right? And a lot of people like to come out and say, no, we're doing this the best. We're the best at this. We're the best at that. And at the end of the day, if you're not the best, don't promote that, right? If you're trying to become the best and you're providing great service, just be straight up about it. But share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and let the people out there that are following you know exactly who you are. Because guess what? That's who they're going to follow. They're gonna follow you. They're gonna want to do business with people that they can trust. How do they build that trust? If you're not just talking about the wins all the time, you got to talk about the losses too, right? The things that are tough in your life. So, one more thing, coach, and I want to share this with you because I think you could run this exercise with me. And this is an exercise people can actually take away from this call. It was the magician. And, I can't recall his name. You might remember his name. But he was talking about how when people go to a party and somebody says, hey, what do you do? Right. And he said for years, he's like, I'm a magician. And, and they said, oh, my kid loves magic. And he'd be like, I don't do children's magician. And it was almost like he slapped their kid in the face, right? And they'd walk away. Same thing happens to us in the real estate mortgage, financial, space, where somebody asks us, hey, what do you do? And then we just throw up all over them. Hey, I'm a loan officer, I'm a branch manager, I'm whatever it is. And that's not who we are. Right. That's not who we are. And more importantly, it doesn't draw them in. And so let's run this exercise real quick. Right.
Okay.
So Coach, if I were to ask you, let's see if you remember this one. If I were to ask you who you are, what would you start with? Like, what do you do?
For what I do?
Yeah.
Since my positions kind of changed over the years from when I was an originator to where I'm helping people, I tell people I help others achieve their dreams.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a lot different. So the idea behind this is exactly that. It's, hey, do you know how a lot of the times, people get into this space and they get stuck and they can't find their way?
Yeah.
Yeah. My name's Coach Rick Koenig, and, what I do is I help people become the best versions of themselves. And I do that right. So like, I'll just give you a quick example, right? I coach originated. So, ultimately the question is, well, what do you do? Right. And then how are you going to solve that problem for them? And ultimately keep them engaged in what you do. Right. So like mine was, hey, Coach, I found most people get stuck by limiting beliefs.
And how do you help them get unstuck from
limiting? Would you agree? Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, Coach, what I do is I coach originators and support teams by helping them rise above their self-imposed limits and build something meaningful. And I do that by focusing on building systems that remove friction, create accountability, and allow people to operate at their highest levels.
Wow, that's you. That's you 100%. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah, I still, to this day, I'm not afraid or ashamed to ever tell people I'm a loan officer. One of the things I hate more than anything else is I hear somebody say, I'm just a loan officer. Just a loan officer. You help people achieve their dream of home ownership. You are a magician yourself. You are a person that changes people's lives. There's bad things that happen in the world, but you and I both know that you help that person get into a house. That house becomes home. They build a family in that home. They have kids. They grow friends in the area. It's life-changing to own a house. And so for somebody to say, I'm just a loan officer, that's why you need to have something a little bit more creative that invites them in to ask you, explain that to me. What do you mean you're a dream creator? Yeah. Well, in my case, I help people learn that they can live the lifestyles of brain surgeons. What? They're going to look at you and go, what do you do? I'm a mortgage coach. I help people in the mortgage industry structure their lives and their business around having an incredible income, but still having a life that they can enjoy that income.
Well, think about this too, right? So if you're a loan officer listening in, hey, have you ever noticed how a lot of the times people struggle in the loan process, finding the right person, and they run into a lot of roadblocks and get frustrated and stressed out?
Oh yeah.
I help guide people through that process and provide them clarity and meaning so that they know exactly how to get from point A to point B. And at the end of the day, I do that by providing these values, right? And this is the way that you want to start introducing yourself, because ultimately you're not just a loan officer. You help people. How do you help them? Right. And people are going to want to engage with you if you talk to them, in that type of a communication point. Right. Well, tell me what that means. What does that mean? Right. How do you do that? Oh, that's so different from what I've heard before. Right. This goes back to what we just talked about, Coach. We want to be different.
Yeah, you got to be different, and don't be afraid to be a little different. A little odd.
I'm not afraid.
A little funny. No, I'm not either. I've gotten reserved as I've gotten older, but my head spins sometimes with the stories that go through it that I can talk to people about and help them with. But if you're just being yourself, people know the difference between BS and genuine. and there are people that you meet in your life. I tell people all the time. In fact, I was on a call right before I got onto this one where I was telling the people that were on there, hey, look, I couldn't do what I do if I couldn't look somebody and look you in the eye. And I've looked you in the eye when I was talking to you about this company. If I can't tell you honestly in my heart that based on what we have here, you can be successful and take care of your family, I can't recruit you. And 99% of the times it comes down to them and what they're doing and what you're doing and what I'm doing to be successful here. But I'm never going to put anybody in a position where they're going to hurt themselves. So, when you are not honest about that, if you're one of those companies that, you hire 100 people in a year and 100 people quit, you got issues, you're just spinning your wheels. Whereas, the people that we've added on this company, sure, we've lost some, but the people that we've gained are just some of the top people in the country. And we're going to continue to gain people like that because I think they understand once they meet us and once they talk to ownership that, we're the real deal. We're not trying to fake them, and we're not out to, for me and what I do with the recruiting side and the coaching side, I don't need to recruit somebody to make money anymore. I've made my bones. I'm at the end of my career. I want to see other people live the lifestyle that I've been able to live with my family because it's been great. So, I think people know the difference.
I agreed. No question about it. Right. No BS, be real, and I think we'll end with this too, is pour into your people. Right. And I don't care if you're the, business owner, the branch manager, the loan officer, the real estate agent, pour into the people that you serve, right? Like fill their cup up. The way that I look at things, Coach, and I know you're the same way too, is that my job is to serve our people. Right. And ultimately, if I'm not bringing value, giving them a resource that they can lean into to grow themselves, right, and giving them that confidence that there's somebody there that's there to support them, I'm not doing my job. Fire me. Fire me, right? Not the company fire me, right? The person who's my employee, no, fire me, right? Because at the end of the day, you've got to make sure that you're serving your people and serving your people well, and that starts at the top, and it works its way all the way to the borrower. Serve your borrowers well.
I've seen you do that. We're fortunate that we have a virtual office, and I can literally see you in your office on your floor, and I can see you in different people's offices, and I know what's going on. You're helping them with a situation, you're coaching them through a situation, or you're challenging them to be better than what they are.
Teach them how to build a brand.
Build a brand. I know you've been doing that all week. I've seen you. I've seen you in everybody's office. So, that's what's really cool. So, I know you live by what you preach, and, you came back excuse me, I just got the hiccups, as excited as anybody. And literally, I'm just going through notes after notes to figure out, what do I do? For me with recruiting, once I got them, I let them talk to you and Ferris and let you guys take over. So
pour into those people. Well, guys, hey, we appreciate you tuning in today. By the way, we meet back every single Thursday at 11:30 Central, and whatever time that is for you. So keep tuning back in, right? We're going to go live here on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And if you're here already, you've already found us. If you're listening to this, you've already found us. So just same bat time, same bat place. And if you need anything, like if you're struggling in your business and just need some great advice, not to be recruited, right? Just need some great advice from people that actually care. Let us pour into your cup. Right? Like, let us pour into you and help you achieve your dreams, right? Because what I've found, Coach, is that if you help people achieve their dreams, man, you've got a long list of people that are always there to support and help and love on you, right?
Yep,
So,
yep.
We'll take that Pepsi challenge, so to speak.
Yeah, I've done that. I can't tell you how many recruiting calls I've been on where they're not leaving, they're happy. And I've shared with them stuff to help them take them to a next level.
Amen.
And I have no problem doing that because we're not competitors in this industry. We're all in this together, and there's enough business to go around.
Amen.
And man, I appreciate you starting this up, and going live has been funny. We couldn't do a lot of pre-prep and talk about everything, but I think we did all right today.
I think we did okay. And I think on that note, we're right at the 30-minute mark. So I'm going to go out with a little song. See if we can get this. There we go. Get stronger, guys. Get faster. Get out there and do what you've got to do to become successful. And if you're already successful, blow that thing up to the next level. Until the next time, I'm Devin Dubuc.
Coach Rick.
And we'll see you on the next one. Take care, and we'll see you then.